Have you ever wanted to listen to two random dudes on the internet talk about their views?
Well, I'm Matt.
And I'm Bill.
And this is the Two Dudes with a View podcast. Everyone, welcome back to episode 10 of the Two Dudes with a View podcast. As we always start, I'm dude number one, Matt, and I'm joined by the second dude, Bill. You know, that's two dudes,
that's
right?
Me right there.
Yeah, it's two dudes. And we unfortunately have a view sometimes, so I mean, that's just the way it goes. Anywho, thank you all for tuning in to episode number 10. 10 weeks into this. We're approaching that 3-month mark already, which is scary, actually. Not scary, but you know, it's coming out of nowhere. Time's flying this year. I don't know if you felt that, Bill, but like we're already not quite halfway, but we're a third of the way through June already. Like the year's like half over. Something's not right here. It's like, I don't know. It's like I'm getting that feeling like you're on, winter break or whatever in school, and then next thing you know, it's like over already. I'm getting that feeling. The year's just already over. Anywho, whatever.
Well, it does just feel like it was like yesterday that we sat on Discord and streamed the ball drop and we were talking about all the stuff. And it was like, that doesn't seem like it was 6 months ago.
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I said, a third of the way through June. We're about halfway through the year. That's all right. It hasn't been the best year, as we're all aware. The last 9 episodes, including this one, which will be 10. You've probably figured that out by now. Anywho, I'm going to start with this, Bill, because we always do it and we have to talk about it or people are going to riot and get mad, and we got to give them the content that they want. How was the weather this week for you? Up here, it wasn't too bad, actually.
Well, it started off not too bad. Then it went to like thunderstorms and ridiculous like tornado kind of winds. Then it went hot again, and then it started getting cold, and then now it's back to warm. So this is like, to me, this is fall weather, but it's spring. I guess it's technically still spring.
Is it still spring?
I think July starts. I think July or summer starts in July. I think.
I'm gonna have to look at my calendar and see when the first. I thought we were in summer already. Oh well. Yeah, but I'm with you. I looked at that the other day. And I'm standing outside and it's breezy. It's like 65. And I'm like, we were just in the 90s pushing 100 last week. And now it's 65 and cloudy and cold. Like, I don't understand that. But hey, it is what it is, I don't mind. So I don't mind it being a little chilly.
No, I'd rather it be, because like, here's the thing about cold. It's easier to get warm when it's cold.
Agreed.
Than it is to get cool when it's hot.
Well, my thing is I can always put more clothes on. I can only take so many off.
Yeah, then you're down to your birthday suit.
And even if I take the birthday suit off, then I'm just in jail. So I mean,
you get down that far, you're going to see a judge.
Yeah.
So I looked it up, and the official start of summer in 2022 is Tuesday, June 21st.
So a little over a week then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like 10 days. So we're getting there. Man. Oh man. Where's the time gone, Bill? I don't know.
Out the front door.
Well, yeah, clearly, and maybe even started going out the back door too. It's going so by so fast. Anywho, we got a great episode for you as always. 2 major topics, and I'm kind of sick and tired of talking about one of these topics, and I think you are too, Bill. But we just unfortunately, we have to do it. And I'll get to it when I get to it, but some of these aren't bad. Others, I'm concerned. Anywho, we're going to start by talking today about something that's affecting literally everybody in this entire country, including myself, because it is costing me a shit ton of money, and that's gas. We're just gonna dump. We're gonna jump right into it because normally, and when I say normally, I'm talking last year or even 2 years ago. About $45, depending on where I went, and obviously the week, but $45 to $50 would fill up my car. Now I got just shy of a 13-gallon gas tank, which is actually kind of big for some sort of cars. Some cars. It cost me like $45-$50. Bill, I will do a little guessing game here. I just filled my car up Thursday. Okay, Thursday. So we're talking 2 days ago from when this was recorded. Filled it to 3/4 of a tank. Guess how much it cost me, Bill? I want to see your estimate here because we're obviously in different states, so we got a little bit different price point, but it's not too far off. So I want to hear what your guess is for this.
Well, 13-gallon tank.
I filled it 3/4, so it was right around that 10-gallon mark.
All right, I'm gonna say you spent $65, $65.
You nailed it right on the head. I put $65 in, and I saw that thing still climbing. I realized I was at about a 3/4 of a tank, and I said, I'm putting this thing back up, and I hung the nozzle back up and drove away because I was not watching that go over the $70 mark. That's just no.
Well, yesterday I got off work yesterday. So when I went to work, it was $4.99. The gas station wasn't open yet, so they didn't get a chance to change their prices. Left work, didn't even bother to look at the price, just pulled it up to the tank, started pumping, put 40 in. Well, after it clicked, I looked over, and it was 7.7 gallons I put in. And then I looked up at the price, and the price was $5.16 a gallon. So it went up 16 cents in like 8 hours.
Yeah, so really actually starting probably Monday into Tuesday last week, I started noticing gas stations around here, they were at that $4.95 mark. And by Wednesday, about half of them, I would say, were at that $4.99 mark. And obviously, no one wants to be the first one to go over $5. Like, that's just, no one wants to do it. But once someone crosses that line, everyone's going to follow. So Wednesday night into Thursday, they crossed that $5 mark. And now everyone, like you said, anywhere's from about $5.10 a gallon to $5.15, somewhere in that range, depending on where you go. But we're having an issue, and I don't know if you're having this down there. The county that I live in, as well as the county south of me, and actually the state of New York itself, removed the gas tax from fuel. And that was to include all types of gas, your premiums, your pluses, all so on and so forth, your standard. It was to include kerosene and diesel and all that fun stuff, right? It was to include everything. We got a company, and I won't mention the name, but we got a company up here that, even with the gas tax removed, they're still adding it in to their prices. Meaning, if gas was, say, the gas tax was 16 cents, right? And one station was $5, they would be $5.16. So instead of removing the gas tax, they're just pocketing that 16 cents and becoming rich off everyone. Which honestly, for this company, I didn't expect anything less, but just shop around, people. If you're specifically in New York, I don't know if you're having that issue down there, Bill. With you, I don't even know if you guys or anywhere else kind of removed the gas tax. I haven't really kept up on that, but just shop around. It might be worth driving that extra half mile to go get gas down the road, specifically around New York here.
That's the best statement that you could have said, because after I filled up my gas yesterday, well, I didn't fill it up because holy hell, I have a big tank, so it would have took me half my paycheck. But so we left there, went and picked up a friend because we go shopping, every other Friday. And we're passing by a store that I stop at all the time. Like last year when I was building a house, I would go by this mini mart all the time. Stop there and get coffee or whatever. their gas prices were still below $5. They were $4.96 a gallon. So if I would have just waited an additional half hour, I could have saved 20 cents a gallon.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where kind of in the reverse of that. I drove by I forget where I was going. I was going somewhere. Drove by the gas station that I normally get gas at, just most convenient for me, and it was like $4.50 when we were still in the fours. It was like $4.50 something, like $4.51, $4.52, somewhere in that range. A gallon, and I didn't need it at the time, so I didn't stop. I still had like, that distance between a quarter and a half, somewhere in that range. So I was fine for a while. So I drove by and whatnot, did what I had to do, and I came back. There was like 3-4 hours later, past the same gas station. It's not that far from my house, and sure enough, it was no longer $4.50, $1.52. It was now like $4.60 something. And then the next day, I went past it again in the morning. It was like $4.70 something. It literally rose in 24 hours, like 25 cents a gallon. It was ridiculous, and that's when I knew. And actually, that was around the time we started talking about the oil crisis and all that fun stuff here on the podcast. It was right around then, and I'm like, damn, 25 cents in like 20. That's a cent an hour. That's going up. A cent an hour. It's ridiculous.
This should be illegal. What's happening right now? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't listen. There's I don't even know. Well, I know how to combat it, and we've talked about it numerous times on this podcast and this show before. When you limit first, let me back up here like 3 years now. Well, 2.5 really. When you lock everyone in their house, tell them they can't go to work, tell them that they can't socialize, they can't do all this stuff, and then 2 years later say, well, you can come out now, but no one wants to work anymore, no one wants to produce anything anymore. I went into a gas station today and went up to the I had to go do a drumline gig. Went into a gas station today. It's this place we stop every year. They always have great pizza, great food. They got all kinds of stuff. Went in, the owner was sitting there casting us out. And I asked him, I said, you guys don't have any food this year? Like, what's going on? He goes, I can't get anyone to work. Now, mind you, this is a very popular gas station. It's, to be honest, it's the only gas station in the entire area. There was a line practically out the door, from people, buying drinks and stuff like that. He would have made a killing if he would have had food, but he doesn't have anyone to work. So that's the same here, right? And we've talked about it, where you lock everyone up and then no one wants to work. They're all lazy because they've been given stimulus checks for, 2 years that eventually they'll have to pay back. They don't realize that yet, but they'll get to there. And then, so you're giving them this stuff, and then all of a sudden you start relying more on other countries because, we're not producing this stuff anymore, and it's cheaper for us to shut down our productions than, to stop buying overseas and produce everything ourselves. So, it started with a little snowball, and now it's like, the full bottom of a snowman. It's that big of a snowball issue. And we've talked about it numerous times. Actually, the first episode we talked about it. 2 episodes ago we talked about it. It's like every other episode we talk about it. So I mean, I'm sure in 2 weeks, maybe even next week, we'll talk about it again. It's an ongoing issue, and I don't see a change in the near future, unfortunately.
Hey, look, I'm a logical person, right? Like you've known me for a long enough.
Yeah.
You know this. So how can it be that we lock ourselves down for 2 years, and then when we come back out and we're allowed to play, where all this oil that was being drilled? Because these people that were out on these rigs didn't come home.
Oh no, not at all.
Right? They were producing oil. Oil's needed even if there's nothing there's.
Oh shit! They were out on the rigs where there's no one. They probably didn't even get COVID.
Right.
To deal with it.
All this oil that they were drilling, over basically a year and a half's time, where's it at?
Well, my thing or my hypothesis, hypothesis to this is they drilled all that oil, and then one of two things happened. The company that drilled it just stored it. Obviously, people weren't driving anywhere. You know, they weren't, unless you're smart like me and take all your trips then, right? Like I took 2 vacations during COVID because everything was so cheap and there was no one around. It was beautiful. So unless you're smart like that, no one was driving anywhere. They're all staying home, you know, with the exception of like delivery drivers because everyone was too lazy to make their own food. Anywho, you know, my thing is they either stockpiled it and they're going to start once we get super expensive, once we're in that 550 range plus, they're going to start releasing it, but in small quantities. You know, they might release a couple thousand barrels a day at which is absolutely nothing for what we consume, but they might release it at a ridiculous price.
Well, here's what I see happen.
And then my second hypothesis, real quick, is we just sold it to other countries besides ourselves. You know, we didn't think ahead. We just sold it. Those are my 2 hypotheses.
Here's what I think's going to happen. Everything's going to get so expensive. Gas, food, all that shit's going to be so expensive that you're not even going to want to look at it or think about it, but you know you need it. So they're going to use that as a means to raise the federal minimum wage, which they shouldn't have to have a reason like this, but they're going to use it to say, all right, the minimum wage is now going to be $15 an hour as a minimum. You can't pay nobody less than $15 an hour. That's going to kill small businesses.
Well, that's going to be a huge jump too if they go that high. Even if they go to $11, $11, like that's huge.
Well, but here's the thing, right? They're going to jack the prices up, and then the prices at the pump now at what $7-8 by that time. When it hits $5 again, you're not even going to realize it.
No, and when it does hit those insane numbers, and by insane, I'm talking like 6+. Like I'm not even talking screw 7 and 8. Like we hit the 6, people are already hurting. But we hit 6+, it's going to be essentially 2020 again, just without the infection, because no one's going to want to go anywhere. Companies are not going to want to pay their electric bills because what's the point if we can just make everyone work from home again, right? No one's going to want to come in anyways. Might as well just make them work from home.
Well, and once it hits $6 or $7, if they take it back down to $5, that's going to seem cheap again because we're going to be like, holy shit, it's $6.50, it's $7 a gallon. Whoa, it's $5 a gallon here. I'm going there.
Yeah.
Realizing that a year prior to that, $3.50 was the average.
I was talking to a couple buddies of mine. Actually both of them are fire chiefs, and another one's a deputy sheriff for the county. They were talking yesterday. The county is getting close on their gas budget for the first half of the year. You know, what they budget everything quarterly, obviously, but for essentially the second quarter now, they're getting close to their gas budget because they're getting sent on all these bullshit calls like they have been the past 2 years. They're starting to say, hey, listen, we're going to have to start cutting back on some of these bullshit calls, which I agree with because a lot of them are bullshit, in order for us to actually make the high priority calls, because we don't have the money or funding for gas anymore if we continue to do this. That tells you right there that we got an issue. Like, you know, it's just there's a problem. And like you said, I mean, they're going to use this, and at some point this will get used to either A, like you said, raise the federal minimum wage, B, make them whoever it is, look good when it's $7-8 a gallon and now it's $5 all of a sudden. You know, they're gonna find something to make this useful for their agenda, whatever side that might be. It's just a matter of time. That's all. Just a matter of time. Anywho, moving on, because that was kind of like a little rant, and that's fine because my wallet's not healthy right now from it. I want to talk about something that happened here in New York. And again, that's, I'm from New York State, not downstate, not in the city, because I would lose my mind. No, I'm from rural central New York, where my neighbor is a quarter mile from me. Beautiful. Anywho, something that happened this past week in New York, and I will say I have never seen legislators, elected officials of any type work as fast as they did for this. And that just shows you, New York's a democratically controlled state through and through, with the exception of the counties here in like central New York and the north. My county specifically, there's 20-something legislators and only one of them is Democrat. Unfortunately, that's not how the state legislator is overall. There's only a handful of Republicans. Everyone else is Democrat. And I think there's only one or two independents too. I don't know. It's not very spread out. But I've never seen them work so fast. So this past week, in response to the Buffalo shooting that happened here in New York a couple weeks ago now, and the school shooting that happened down in Texas, they passed a series of 10 bills. Now, again, these were created, discussed upon in the legislature, voted on, and then signed within a week and a half, because they closed the actually it closed today. The legislative cycle closed today. These were signed earlier this week, middle of the week. So between essentially Monday of last week and the middle of this week, I think it was Wednesday, they got signed. They passed 10 bills. Now I'm just gonna read these and then we can deep dive into them specifically. But number one, you now need a permit in order to buy a semi-automatic rifle in New York State. On top of that, you must be 21 in order to buy a semi-automatic rifle, and that's due to the permit ages, because the current law for permits governs pistol permits, which require you to be 21. They're using the exact same law. They're just adding this clause in for semi-auto rifles. So now you have to be 21 to buy a semi-automatic rifle. Top of that, body armor sales are now banned except for certain professions like law enforcement, first responders, that type of stuff. They haven't come out with the full list, so I'll be curious to see who else is on there. I'm assuming security is going to be on there. So on and so forth. They're banning all high-capacity magazines. In New York, a high-capacity magazine is deemed 10-plus rounds. Before, when they passed the SAFE Act that everyone loved in 2013, and I use air quotes around the word loved, high-capacity magazines bought before 2013 or made prior to 1994 were illegal. Now all of them are banned. You can't have any of them. One that I actually agree with here, and I'm going to get into more of these, which ones I agree and disagree, and so will Bill. But one that I actually strongly agree, it's now a misdemeanor to make a threat of mass harm, whether that's on social media, whether that's, you just say it to someone, whatever it might be. Write it in a journal, whatever it might be. It's now a misdemeanor. Law enforcement are now required to share all information, so serial number, so on and so forth, about any seized gun they get to state and federal databases. Essentially, this says, if this gun gets sold or whatever, or if something comes up missing and is used, they can track it easier with serial numbers, all so on and so forth. So they got to share that to federal databases and state databases. So even, your local village police now have to do this as well. On top of that, one that the Attorney General, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago when the Buffalo shooting actually happened, and we released that episode. The Attorney General was investigating social media apps like Twitch specifically, and I'll get more into Twitch here in a little. But social media apps now under this new set of laws are now required to provide a clear and concise policy on how they're going to handle incidents of, quote, hateful conduct. So if we remember back to the Buffalo shooting when it was live streamed on Twitch, and Discord supposedly had some involvement in it, well, we still don't know. They're going to now be required under New York law to provide a clear and concise policy in how they're going to handle those situations. And they're also going to be required to provide a easy, accessible mode of reporting said content for users. On top of that, a state task force is going to be created. I don't know who's going to be on this task force. Probably a bunch of old men and women that have no idea what they're talking about. Is going to be created to combat the quote hateful conduct that is happening on these social media sites. On top of that, gun dealers are now required to ban anyone under 18 from any area of a store that contains a firearm unless they are with a parent. On top of that, employees must also take training on how to handle gun sales properly. And the New York State Police are now required to inspect gun dealers every 3 years. So I'm going to save that for later. The firearm definition in New York law has now been expanded to include guns specifically designed to elude current gun laws. Essentially, what the legislators were trying to do was they were essentially trying to expand the word firearm to those that would, I guess they were having an issue, specifically New York City and like downstate, of some arm brace gun. I don't even know, but essentially it was a loophole to the current gun laws, so they expanded it, saying certain guns that were made to elude previous gun laws are now firearms, classified as firearms in the state. On top of that, micro stamping ammo is going to be required, and what this means is that it's not actually the ammo that's micro stamping, it's the firearm that's micro stamping. So essentially what it means is it's going to become illegal and a crime to sell a semi-automatic pistol, or automatic pistol of that matter, without micro stamping. And micro stamping is literally just the act of when you fire a round from said pistol, that it leaves a mark on the bullet or casings. Essentially, it's easier to track and link up, hey, this firearm shot this bullet, for law enforcement. And then on top of that, to round it all off, they expanded red flag laws. So healthcare providers, any healthcare provider, including dentists, were actually on the list. So, I mean, I guess talk nice to your dentist now, can now file a petition for an, quote, extreme risk protection order, unquote, for anyone they have seen within the last 6 months. And essentially what this does is it restricts them, those individuals, temporarily from firearms. Now, obviously, if they own firearms, that's a little bit different. They can't get restricted from that, but they are restricted from buying firearms until essentially that's investigated, that protection order is investigated, and that petition's investigated. So there's a lot to unpack here, Bill. You want to just run down and give me your thoughts real quick on all it? There's a lot here. 10 bills. It's realistically a lot more than 10 if you add in all the little caveats to everything, but it's a lot to unpack. You know what? Let's just run down these one by one. We'll get our opinions. So, you now need a permit to buy semi-automatic rifles. And I'm going to just throw this in there, but on top of that, you need to be 21 as well because of the permit requirements.
That seems like a no-brainer to me, because now they moved the federal law says you can't buy cigarettes till you're 21, so you shouldn't be able to buy a damn gun until you're 21. Just saying.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. Semi-automatic rifles. Now, I don't know exactly where this stands and whatnot, but technically, there are semi-automatic shotguns as well. Now, shotguns aren't technically rifles. So, and again, it's only semi-auto and obviously full auto rifles. Not that. Yeah, I mean, I guess hunting rifles and whatnot, single shot hunting rifles, that type of stuff. You don't need to be 21 for, but yeah, semi-automatic rifles. Essentially, what they're trying to do is the AR-15 style platform firearms. They're trying to get them to 21 plus. And to be honest with you, I like you said, I agree with it.
Makes sense. Why shouldn't they have to be 21?
Yeah, the only issue I see here, and it's not for the fact that they're 21, it's the permit. New York State pistol permits, and if they're going off the same system, which it sounds like, are near impossible to get nowadays. Like, near impossible. Maybe like the AR style platforms, whatever, yeah. But there are some, again, if this includes like shotguns and whatnot, I could see some upset happening in there where it might take literally years to get your permit for this. And then on top of that, what do we do? How do we track the ones that are currently 18, 19, 20 that already have these firearms? Which I guess they're technically grandfathered in at this point. Really can't say, oh, no, it's illegal now, whatever. Which we're going to get to that later, but, or those that are, and this is still something for me, and we'll get into this when we get to the gun dealers, but what if they sell it on, like, Facebook Marketplace, give it to a friend, something like that, Because they're not...
That's always the breakdown, right, is I could buy a gun, and it's registered to me. I could give it to you knowing that you're going to go commit some kind of crime, right? Like, you could tell me you're going to do that, and I could give you this gun to go do it. And then you get killed in the shootout. They find a gun, it comes back to me. I say, I didn't even know it was missing.
Yeah.
He must have stole it. Like, so there's always going to be works around with it. So no law is perfect.
We'll get to this later with the gun dealers because I do have some stuff for that. But, like, in general, like, if you buy a gun, right, and sell it to me on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, wherever, you're not technically required under the gun dealer laws there, right? Because you're not a licensed gun dealer. So, do you have to check for permits now? Do you have to, all that fun stuff? Obviously, if you buy a pistol right now from someone on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, and at least in New York, you don't have to check permits. You just, in order for it to become a registered firearm in your name, you have to go in, make sure you present your permit, the serial number of the firearm, so on and so forth. So, I mean, there could be some issues there with some people going on to, like we saw in Buffalo, he bought it practically the same day. We could see he goes on the Facebook Marketplace now and just buys it there, right? No, nothing's perfect because Facebook's not going to cater to one state. They're going to wait for a federal ruling. They don't care. On top of that, body armor sales banned for anyone except certain professions.
Why wasn't that a law in the first place?
Specifically law enforcement, but now I'm guessing, obviously, first responders, so on and so forth. And here's my catch-22, right? I agree that heavy armor plating, stuff like we saw in the Buffalo shooting, where the guy literally had the equivalent of SWAT gear, that should fully be banned, right? 100% be banned. But then you got the stuff like the little vests or whatnot that, listen, I know some sketchy places. I'm sure you do too, Bill. Specifically in New York, like obviously New York City too. There there's some sketchy places that regular people just walk around with, that flimsy, cheap. It's not going to do a whole lot. Actually, most of it's probably just stab proof, to be honest. And even that's not really stab proof. It's just resistant. That people walk around with just because they fear for their own safety, which I agree, I can respect and understand. But yeah, I'm with you. Anything that's major plate carriers, stuff like that, please. Why are we even selling that to begin with to the general public? Like, that should be a wholesaler only type deal that only, again, certain professions like law enforcement, EMS, fire, security, even, stuff like that. I'm in full agreement with that one. But there are people out there, again, that walk around with that small, flimsy stuff that's not really going to do anything, but it makes them feel a little bit better.
If your job requires you to carry a gun, you should be able to stop a bullet from a gun.
Agreed.
If your job does not require you to carry a gun, then you should not be wearing body armor.
Well, there is security guards that aren't armed that, and like EMS, obviously, and fire, they now, unfortunately, have to wear body armor. But stuff like that, that's pretty straightforward and simple, though, to understand the difference between that and, me walking around with an armored plate carrier that, is practically the same as the local SWAT team has, a little bit different there.
Yeah, it blows me away that, like, military grade and law enforcement grade body armor should not be sold.
Agreed.
Should not be sold.
Fully agreed. 100% agreement. On top of that, high capacity magazines, 10 plus rounds, are now fully banned. Again, before this, when the Safety Act came out in 2013, essentially they said, we're banning the sale of them from there on. So any that you owned previously, or that were made prior to 1994, I don't know why they just didn't say that you owned, before 2013. Because you couldn't buy them even if they were 1994 or older. You still couldn't buy them after 2013. So those, even the ones that you currently have, now fully banned. Here's my.
I don't know if I agree with that, because I have a hunting rifle that has a 12 round magazine in it. It's a normal clip. It's a stock clip. It comes with it. It holds 12 rounds. So essentially 13, because you could chamber one and then have 12 in the clip. But that, I wouldn't consider that high capacity. Like, to me, a high capacity is like 20, 30 rounds, like a big number. Because hunting, when you go hunting, there's times you might take 2 or 3 shots at a deer. You might hit it, wound it, or miss it, and it barely moves. Now you rechamber, shoot again. So like that. 10 rounds to me is not a high capacity. Capacity is a large
As
number.
I say, when I think of high capacity, I'm thinking 30, 40 round, even 50 rounds. That we're starting to get into drum magazines, stuff like that. But in addition, right, since 2013, these have been banned. You can't find them. You can't import them to New York State. Like, if I go to a website right now that's a company based out of California or Texas, wherever, they won't ship it to New York, because they'll get in trouble, obviously. So, since 2013, we've had that. Now they're just saying, well, you can't own them at all. So, the people that have them, that were fully legal, now what do they do with them? Right? I think they should have just left it the way it was and not mess around with it, because now people are just going to be pissed at, like you said, hunting rifles that are stock, so on and so forth. Whatever. I don't necessarily agree with that one. I could see it, but they should have just left it the way it was in the Safety Act. One that I truly agree with, and I mentioned this earlier, it's now a misdemeanor to make a threat of mass harm. I fully support that. If you go on Facebook, and say, hey, I'm going to shoot up this place, yeah, you should probably get arrested and charged for that. I would like to see it a felony, maybe. But a misdemeanor works, I guess. In New York, that's pretty much an appearance ticket. You'll be out in 12 hours at the most.
The thing about that one, and while I agree with it, I don't know why that ain't a thing either, because here in PA, if you're my neighbor and I say to you, Matt, I'm going to punch you in the nose, and you call the cops, and the cops come here, and they say, Bill, did you say you were going to punch him in the nose? And I say, well, yeah, because he keeps doing whatever he's doing that pissed me off, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get arrested for simple assault, because simple assault doesn't have to be contact. Verbally assaulting somebody is simple assault.
Not in New York. Assault. New York doesn't have simple assault. New York has assault, and they have battery. In order to be charged with assault in New York, you have to physically break a bone. Yeah, I can punch you clear as day. You are knocked out. Your head is gushing blood. But if I do not break a bone, they can't arrest me for assault. They can arrest me for battery. They can't arrest me for assault.
Well, see, then I guess that's one thing PA has over New York, because clearly our budget is nowhere near close to yours. But, like, if you go on any kind of social media, first off, you're a dipshit if you do it. You deserve anything you could possibly get done to you. But if you're going to go on social media and threaten to shoot up a school or a building or whatever, that should have been illegal. That's terroristic threat.
Agreed. Yep. Yeah, agreed. So I fully support this misdemeanor. Again, in New York, unfortunately it's only probably an appearance ticket. You'll be out in 12 hours, but it's better than nothing, I guess.
I mean, how many people have to die before it's not a misdemeanor? Are they going to let another shooting happen and then say, well, maybe a misdemeanor isn't good enough? Maybe it should be a felony.
Probably 2 more shootings, I'm guessing. We'll see. You never know, unfortunately. Another one I agree with, law enforcement are now required to share all information about seized guns to state and federal databases. I think this is just common sense. It should have been done anyways.
Yeah, like, do you notice the trend here? It seems like everything they changed or made law is something that probably should have been already.
Yeah.
And realistically, back when the Columbine shooting happened, social media and the internet wasn't really a thing, right? Like, that was...
No, not at all.
That 1999 or something like that?
Yep.
So, but just what you learned from that, you should be like, okay, this new technology, this new thing's here. Let's implement something to avoid it. It's called, well, it's the business motto: proper preparation prevents piss poor performance, right?
Exactly.
If you anticipate something happening, you can make laws or rules or whatever and put them in place to block that when it does get to that point.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, again, like you said, not everything, probably 60% of what they're doing is should have been done already. And I mean, hey, it's about time they catch up to the ball. So yeah, I mean, sharing information, if they get a gun and they seize it, and obviously they're not going to keep it forever, unfortunately, so it's going to end up either get destroyed or going back to someone. But now that information at least is in state and federal databases, so if it's used again, a little bit easier to track. Another one I agree with, because some social media apps suck, but they're now required to provide a clear and concise policy on how they're going to handle incidents of hateful conduct. Again, I don't know what hateful conduct means, whether that's just what we saw in the Buffalo shooting where he live streamed it, or if I go into a Twitch chat and say, Bill, I'm going to punch you in the face. I don't know if they're on the same level playing field, or we're just talking about the more severe or the, whatever. And then on top of that, an accessible mode of reporting said content. I think that's just goes with red flag laws here and is understandable. And social media sucks as it is. The companies don't care, and we saw that in Twitch, and that's why on a personal level I made the decision not to stream on Twitch ever again. Twitch sucks with the way they are, so, and clearly we saw that in Buffalo.
Here, I'll write the law right now. Ready?
Yep.
This is how we'll handle it as a social media platform. We will not allow streaming from iOS or Android.
I would, that would be amazing.
Ain't nobody gonna lug a fucking computer around with them to live stream.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I'd be down for that. I mean, to be honest,
you can't record on your phone. If you're streaming on your phone, it's blocked.
To be honest, I would like to see the statistics now about how many people actually stream on their phone, because, to be honest, I've spent many years on Twitch. both as a viewer, as a streamer. I've never once live streamed on my phone, nor have ever seen anyone live stream via mobile device. So I would find it very interesting to see what the statistics are. It's got to be very low, the people. So it's not like they're losing out on money. I would still, they can view things on their phone, but they're not. They just can't go live on iOS and Android. I mean, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I support that.
Like I know for a fact I got a desktop computer. And if I plan on going out and shooting up a place, I'm not going to pack this whole system up and then
fuck that.
Put it on. What am I going to put it on a shopping cart and push it beside me?
Yeah, no, I'm good. And then on top of that, something I don't think is going to be productive at all, like every other state task force, but the legislators making a new state task force to combat hateful conduct content. So essentially, it's going to be like every other state task force, a bunch of grumpy old men and women sitting in an office getting paid to do nothing and be completely, not useful. So, I mean, that'll be great.
And all that is that's just saying everybody that's about to retire from active duty law enforcement, hey, you can take this job and go make the same amount of money you're making now and sit on your ass and act like you're doing something. I don't even only ever bring anything out to the public only when something happens.
I don't even think
you say, well, because of this, now we're going to change this.
It's not even going to be. I don't even think it's going to be law enforcement. I literally think it's just going to be grumpy old legislators. That's what I believe it's going to be.
Well, task force don't work. They're like,
I agree.
They work in the military because there's more intelligence, but in like law enforcement and security and all that, task forcing don't work. You can't ever predict because the criminals are always going to be smarter than the cops.
Yeah. Yep. Another thing I kind of agree with. I agree parts of it. Gun dealers must now ban anyone 18 or younger from areas of the store that include firearms or where firearms are stored. So essentially, we're talking not necessarily your overall big firearms, like that's the only thing to do. We're talking about your Walmarts, your Dick's Sporting Goods, your Runnings, Tractor Supply. Actually, I guess Tractor Supply does. I wonder if that includes BB guns now I'm thinking about it. Those types of stores anyways, Gator Outdoors, all those types of stuff. They're required to ban anyone 18 years or younger, so apparently now you're just going to be carded every time you walk into those stores to see if you're 18 or with a parent. Whatever, I don't think that's going to do a whole lot, to be honest with you. They're just going to look at it from a distance now or Google it online. It's whatever.
And with that, I'll just throw this out there because, to me, it just dawned on me, but you got to be 18 to be in a section of a store that sells guns, which, okay, I can get it. I realize that, they're making laws around guns. But I know for a fact New York has them, Pennsylvania has them, just about every state in the country has them now. Places where you can go get medical marijuana.
Yep.
Right? And right on the door, it says you must be 18 years or older to enter this building. How are they going to enforce it in Walmart? They can't just say you can't come in Walmart because you're not 18, because that's not going to work. I think what are they going to do? Force Walmart to build all these like superstores?
I think
never mind gun dealers. Gun dealers themselves are going to have their own rules that they're places that just sell guns, but Walmarts and stuff, what are they going to do? Like take the old garden centers where they have like all the shit in the back and then just make that where you have to show your ID to get into it?
I mean, I've seen it around here. I think Walmart, Dick's Sporting Goods did it around here for a while, and then they kind of brought a couple back, and now I foresee them phasing it out. But I think we're going to see the Walmarts and the stores that still, the general stores, I'll call them, that still sell firearms. I think they're gonna stop. Leave it up to like Runnings and Gator Outdoors, your bigger national chain type stores. I think they're just gonna leave it up to them.
Here's what I see coming. Ready? And this is something that's happening in PA. It's actually being argued right now in PA. We have like the state stores where you go buy alcohol, like you can buy liquor.
Yep.
Liquor is only allowed to be sold in state stores. You can't go to, say I can buy beer at Sheetz. I can't go to Sheetz and buy liquor. Like I could buy not moonshine, but like Fireball and shit there, but you can't buy vodkas and stuff like that. So what I see happening is, if the state can control its alcohol, why can't the federal government just say all gun sales now are going to be done by the federal government? Set up all the businesses, like each state gets five, five. We'll go north, south, east, west, and then smack dab in the middle, and put gun stores in each location. So if you want to buy a gun, you probably got to travel a good distance to get one. Federal government takes control of it. I'm not a fan of the federal government controlling anything, but like, if you could fix the problem quick, just fix the problem quick and let everybody just deal with it.
Yeah, like I see two issues with that. One, your national stores like Cabela's and Bass Pro, they're never going to buy into that. And quite frankly, those large corporations give politicians enough money to pay them off. So that'll never happen just for that reason. And then on top of that, the federal government sucks already. Like, look at, it's not federal, it's state, but look at the DMV, how long it takes to get paperwork back. And that's just the state. Can you imagine the federal government? Please, you'd be there for 10 years trying to buy a gun.
For 10 years, we won't have mass shootings and innocent people getting killed.
I mean, that is true, which, hey, that's, I guess, a plus. But I foresee at least the first part of that. Again, the CEOs of these large national chains like Runnings and Cabela's, Bass Pro Shop, Gander Outdoors, again, they pay politicians a lot to get their ways. So,
well, it's always going to be that way. Maybe we just cut all of, just fire all the politicians and put like 3 people in charge and call it good. Put me on the board. I'll fix the problem.
Oh yeah, let's do it. And then
I guarantee you, I'll fix that son of a bitch right. I won't even need an hour on the job, and I'll fix it. I'll take the rest of the year off.
And then the last part of that, the state police are now required to inspect gun dealers every 3 years. Now, in New York, I think it's every 3, if not 5. It's one of those two. If you have a pistol permit, you're required to update your information every 3 or 5 years. I forget which. I think it's 3. Essentially, it's, you go through, you just get the serial numbers again, all that of your pistols. That way, it's up to date, it's current. They have the most accurate information. This is going to be, they're going to go in and inspect gun dealers, make sure they're following the appropriate protocols, they're not selling underage weapons anymore, so on and so forth, which I agree with. I think that's good. But unfortunately, we're asking not underfunded because it's state police, but we're asking a law enforcement agency that 90% in New York State, and the only reason I say 90 is because New York City is a large portion of that 90%. Everywhere else is probably like 60%. But 90% of the state of New York was fully into the defund the police campaign, and now we're asking them to do more things, so we're just stressing them out. They got a bunch of vacancies as well. Actually, speaking of that, I just read that the California Highway Patrol is trying to fill 1,000 vacancies in the next 2 years, which is insane. So, any California guys want to be a cop, there you go. They're looking for them. 1,000 vacancies plus. So, 2 years. You got plenty of time. But we're asking underfunded, understaffed agencies to go out and do these things. I see it lasting just a couple of years, and then unfortunately it's probably just going to fall off until we get funding and staffing for it more. And then obviously,
hold on, because now you just brought me up, and I got to spend a minute on this. Wasn't that defund the police thing kind of redundant?
Yes, it was.
What happens if we actually did defund the police and all these school shooters just go in, shoot shit up, walk away, and because there's no cops to arrest them?
Well, and that's what I said. We were all about the defund the police movement, specifically around the George Floyd issues. That was a major factor of it. And then, the same people 2 weeks later were saying, "Oh, they stormed our Capitol. Oh, they are burning this place down. You should go arrest them." And then they're like, "I would love to, but there's 5 of us now instead of 10 because we, had to make budget cuts." Or I'm sorry, my car doesn't start anymore because I can't afford a new one because we don't have the funding for it. So, hope you're not dying when you get robbed. Sorry. You know, that type of stuff. Yeah, you know, it's the same people. They're a double-edged sword, you know? Whatever feeling they feel that week.
That's hypocrites. Hypocrite. That's the word of the week. Don't be a fucking hypocrite.
Yep, sounds about right. This one's a quick, easy one that I agree with. Firearm definition was expanded to include guns specifically designed to elude current gun laws. Again, I don't know what they're exactly talking about here when they say they were aiming for firearms to be shot that are shot from an arm brace. I tried looking it up and nothing popped up, so I think the legislators were just high on crack when they made this law. But you know, if it is eluding current gun laws, then probably good people aren't in the hands of them. So yeah, just expand the firearm definition. This kind of goes along with the 3D printed guns too, which I haven't done enough research on to have an opinion of that yet.
That was going to be what I bring up in the next little micro stamping thing. But with this, what you just brought up, arm brace, that is basically a high velocity weapon.
Okay.
Where you have to brace your arm for when you pull the trigger, the recoil. So, like, you know what I mean? And knock on wood for this, since the Washington, the Beltway sniping that happened back in the early 2000s with that Lee Boy Malvo and that John Muhammad, where they went around just sniping people in the DC area, there really hasn't been killings used with military grade sniper rifles. So
yeah,
that's what arm bracing is. It's basically just you're putting the gun, you brace your arms, so when you pull the trigger, you can maintain the gun. So leaning your arm on something or a bipod, but a bipod's not an arm brace, but I guess it could be for this argument.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Micro stamping, so essentially it'd be illegal to sell pistols specifically. It only specified pistols, did not specify rifles or shotguns or anything like that. It'd be illegal to sell a pistol that does not microstamp the bullet and casing. Again, this makes it easier for law enforcement to track. I do want to mention, because I know you got something on this bill, that it's been signed. However, they are going to the same task force. It's not the same task force. It's one of the stupid task forces in New York. It's going to look to see if this is actually a viable solution. So essentially, they pass the law without knowing if it's viable or not. But you know, they'll figure it out. They never do. But I know you had something on this bill that you wanted to cover with, I think 3D guns is what you said, or what I was mentioning when you said you wanted to cover something with it.
Yeah, so on a 3D printed gun, the way this micro stamping would work is when you pull the trigger, the hammer comes down, and when it hits the bullet, it puts some kind of stamp on it that says, like, you know, this is what this gun or this bullet was fired from this gun. So if somebody wants to take the time to 3D print a pistol and put a middle finger on the firing mechanism, what is it just going to put a middle finger on the bullet? And when the cops find the bullet, they're going to have a middle finger? Like, you know, sometimes these laws should have been enacted 10 years, 15 years ago before this technology, but that's only hindsight, right? Because you wouldn't know that this technology was coming, because we don't know what's coming out in 10 years.
Yeah.
So they can't really put laws, but when you put laws into place, knowing that they're already, it's like creating a rule, knowing that there's more loopholes around the rule than is going to actually be enforced by the rule, that pretty much renders the rule useless. It's just something on paper, just in case that one person actually does it.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you said, a lot of these are just like 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 15 years too late type of stuff. But it is what it is. And again, with the 3D printed guns, I haven't done enough research on it to actually have an opinion, but I'm sure we'll cover that at some point. I think there's actually still a case in the Supreme Court about it, so they'll rule on it in probably 6 months, and we'll figure that out. And then the last one for today, expanding red flag laws. essentially what this is healthcare providers can file a petition that would be looked at by someone. I don't know who. They didn't specify. That would, and this petition would restrict them, that individual, from buying or having access to firearms until that petition was looked at. Again, it's a temporary thing. It's not a long-term thing. Any physicians or healthcare providers and dentists were on the list. So again, be nice to your dentist. Have the ability to file this petition up to 6 months after seeing the person. So, Bill, if you go in and get a physical today from your doctor, and then 6 months down the road, you drive by him and flip him off or whatever on accident, and he can now file a petition for you not have access to firearms temporarily because he flipped you off. There's probably more to it. This is a very open to interpretation law, I guess it is, or order, or whatever you want to call it, act. I don't even know. That they're going to go into more detail, like the one above, where they're going to figure out if micro-stamping actually is effective or not. They're going to figure out what to actually do with this. If this comes out true, listen, healthcare providers, to be honest with you, 9 out of 10 of these mass shooters that we have seen do not go and get mental health treatment. That's what they're trying to aim for here. They don't get mental health treatment. So, I mean, it's great that if they're going to put it in place, but they're going to have to put some restrictions on this so that random people aren't just getting revoked, getting their firearm privileges revoked temporarily and then having to fight it, that type of stuff. But I do think that the concept is semi-good and that at some point it'll be effective, hopefully, potentially.
Problem with red flag, wow, easy for me to say. Problem with red flag laws is somebody has to notice it.
No, it's not even that. It's that someone has to notice it and then say something. It's not it's not the noticing part, it's the saying something part.
Here's the thing, though. A couple years ago, here in PA, there was a guy, YouTuber, actually was pretty popular. He made a cartoon and stuff, like an animated series on his channel, and did all this stuff. And he was streaming. Like, he would make videos of him talking crazy and showing that he went out and bought guns, and he had them laying on his bed, and he was showing them in his videos. And he as odd as this is about to sound, but he fell in love with his characters that he created. There were 2 female characters on the series. He put a date and a time to when he was going to do what he did, and this was weeks in advance. And then he started doing, like, instead of being in front of the camera kind of videos, then he was doing sitting in his car on his phone recording the YouTube video. And then one day he worked at a Wise Markets, like a convenience store, a grocery store. And he walked in and started shooting people. So there was a trail of like months where somebody could have said something wrong with this guy, and he knew that something was wrong with him because he even said in some of the videos, he goes, "My thoughts aren't right. My thoughts aren't, this what I'm thinking isn't what a normal person does."
Yeah.
So he didn't go get help because he went in there, shot up a bunch of people, and killed himself.
Yep.
So you're not going to get the crazy people to say, "Hey, for the past week I've been really thinking about going and shooting up this place." They're not going to just go to a doctor and say that, because the doctor's going to be like, "Well, wait a minute, let me get a cop because this ain't right." So that takes that part out of it. They already know if they go say something to somebody, the cops are getting involved, law's getting involved somewhere, and they're probably going to end up in a nutty pad. They're going to be the only guy in a round room looking for the corner.
Yep.
So they just keep the shit to themselves and then go out and do it. And mommy and daddy, who probably seen it, just think, "Oh, well, he's growing up or she's growing up," and it's just an identity crisis. Until it's too late.
Yeah. Like I said, the thing is not about seeing it. I mean, it is in some cases, but 9 out of 10 times it's about saying something. So if you see something, say something. That's my PSA for the day.
You ain't snitching on somebody that's about to kill somebody. Like, you're helping somebody at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and even if you know somebody that shot somebody, snitch on that son of a bitch. Call the cops and tell them, "Hey, this dude shot this person. This chick shot this person," because there's probably a family somewhere that's wanting some answers.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, don't be a douchebag. And see something, say something. Those are my 2 PSAs for the day. You got one, Bill? You got a PSA for the day? Public service announcement? Anyone?
Yeah, grow the fuck up.
Okay.
Stop acting like a child.
I mean, that's a good one too. Yeah. So grow the fuck up. Stop acting like a child. Don't be a douchebag. Stop shooting people. I guess I'll add in there. And then if you see something, say something. Those are the 4 PSAs for the day. There's gonna be a quiz next episode, so I hope you remember all those.
Yeah, and here's a little bonus one for you that'll get you extra points, because this is kind of a serious PSA. Is if you or anybody you know is having some kind of problem, call for help.
Yeah, do it. It's better to make the call and deal with the issues, later surrounding that call than to not call and have to deal with a lot different issues in the very near future, probably. So, anywho, Bill, you got any final thoughts before we wrap it up today?
Oh, we're getting close to my favorite part, and I can feel it. So just remember, tune in Thursday. That's your next date. Tune in Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. So Thursdays, again, we're going to be doing, I'm going to call it unscripted. I mean, we're always unscripted. We never know what we're going to say. We just have topics written down that...
It's going to be an unformatted show.
Yeah, there's going to be no format. There's probably going to be no topics that we don't... It's just going to be literally me and Bill, probably for an hour, talking about one topic and just giving our opinions on that. You never know. It might snowball into another topic, which might end up snowballing into 17 other topics. So it's going to be more unscripted, no format, and it's just going to be us giving our view on a topic or a handful of topics for about an hour. So tune in Thursdays. With that being said, Bill, it's your time to shine, buddy.
Ooh, I love it.
So I'm gonna kick it to you to have you tell them all about the lovely Discord we got.
All right. So, like I say every time, I'm not good with long letters and numbers and strings and all that. So Matt will put it in the description of this video, whether you're watching it or listening to it on whatever platform. The link to the Discord will be there. Jump in there from time to time. We hop in and shoot the shit with you guys. We make posts about topics we may be covering. We may even ask you to come on to the podcast one day on one of our Thursday Relax podcasts. You never know. Just jump in there. Things happen. There'll be giveaways at some point, I'm sure. It's also, if you run a business or gaming community or anything of that sort, or you're just a streamer or a YouTuber and you want to promote yourself, hop in there. We have a promotion pack. You can look at it, rent some space. It goes from really cheap to quite a bit of money, but you get what you pay for. So check that out, and that's pretty much all there is to that.
Yeah. So check it out. And as always, if you don't want to join the Discord and you want to reach out to us, you can email us. We're more than happy to respond to any email. I'll put the email in the description as well. But that's 2dudeswithaview@gmail.com. That's the number 2, dudeswithaview@gmail.com. Send us an email about topics you want to see, questions you have for us, whatever you got. Just send it our way. We'll be more than happy to answer it for you. But with that being said, we'll see you Thursday for a lovely episode of being unfiltered, unformatted, and unscripted. And until then, stay safe, everyone. Don't be assholes to one another, and enjoy. That being said, we'll catch you next episode.
Later.